Hey guys, welcome to the Intro to UI Design with Adobe XD workshop. My name is Liz. I am an organizer for RevUC. I'm a third year in computer science at the University of Cincinnati, and I'm used to be an Adobe XD ambassador. So through the official ambassadorship, I learned how to use XD. So, hi guys in the chat. So today I just wanted to go over and kind of show you guys how to use XD. One of the things I do mention is that XD is not, like, the full version isn't free. However, using XD is pretty, like, if you know how to use XD, it's pretty easy to pick up other applications such as Figma or Sketch, if those are accessible to you because they are free. Figma especially, I do recommend Figma a lot. I know a lot of companies, including Fifth Third and 8451, they both use Figma. So super helpful tool, and again, it's free. But I'm going to kind of show you what you can do with XD, and yes, stick around until the end, and I'm going to show you all the participation codes, them sweet racking up points. But there's a lot of people this time. Cool. Does anyone have any questions before I go ahead and get started? You don't have to download XD before we go and get started either. And if you have any questions at all, go ahead and ask me. I really hope that you learned something because I am going to be judging for the design portion of the hackathon. So I'm really hoping that what I teach you is going to be helpful, and maybe you can submit a design for your hackathon project. Awesome, awesome. Go ahead and drop any comments or questions in the chat, and I'll go ahead and get started. Okay, first thing I want to tell you about with XD. So it is, if you don't know what Adobe XD is, it's essentially a user experience design tool that is obviously created by Adobe, and it's pretty much designed to be a competitor for Sketch and Figma, and a lot of people use it for creating mobile app designs and web app designs. But there's a lot you can actually do with Adobe XD that a lot of people kind of dismiss. One of the things that I do actually is I create like Instagram posts and stuff because it is a design tool, and I also do graphics. So if you're interested in seeing any of that kind of stuff, let me know and I can like show you some of the things that I use so that maybe it'll inspire you and how you can use it for your hack. But most of the time people use it for UI, UX for applications. You can also design games in Adobe XD. However, that's kind of out of my comfort area, so I'm not going to show you how to design games or anything. But this is all very beginner friendly. So if you've never used a design app, no biggie, you'll learn. So one of the things I want to focus on first and foremost with Adobe XD and with a lot of design tools is that shortcuts make it way more efficient for you as a designer. So these are kind of a lot of the shortcuts that I find most useful. So V is kind of, so I'll start with the second and go down. So artboard, what you see here, like this screen right here, this is an artboard. In order to access like the artboard menu, you can either go over to the sidebar, which is where nearly all of your tools are going to be located. You can go and click them manually. However, if you just hit the letter A on your keyboard, then you're going to have this whole menu of different artboards that you can pick from. And what I really like about Adobe XD is that it gives you all of the like pre-measured artboards for if you're making a phone app, and it's based on what model you're using for like whether it be an iPhone or a Google Pixel or a Samsung. If you have a tablet, web and desktop. For social media, kind of like how I mentioned that Adobe XD is not just for creating web apps or maybe mobile apps. You can do stories and Instagram posts, Twitter headers, Twitter posts, Facebook covers. You can also do Apple Watch designs. I've never done that before, but I'm sure it's really helpful. Also, with artboards, you can resize them and do custom sizes, so you don't necessarily have to conform to the norm of what's specified. So if you just, once you hit the letter A, you're going to get this kind of crosshair with a little box around it, and that's when you know you're using the artboard selection tool. So I've just created 2 differently sized artboards. If I wanted, I can go and create more, but I don't really want to, so we're going to delete these. And I can just get rid of them either by using the backspace or the delete key. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty simple. You can also, what's very important is creating shapes, especially for someone who makes graphics. Obviously, shapes are very important, but in order to easily create your shapes, that way you don't, again, have to keep scrolling over to your left sidebar and clicking on them. You can just use these shortcuts. So R is for rectangle. So I hit R, and this little crosshair with a rectangle pops up. Super easy, super casual. This is not an artboard, though. Let it be known, an artboard does have a little title that you can change the name of. If you double click on the name, you can change the name of your artboard. And like what kind of differs, it makes an artboard different from a rectangle, is that artboards show up on your left tablet here, or your little menu here. For artboards, that way you can easily navigate which artboard you're working on. This is super helpful if you're someone who is like me, who designs a bunch of screens for like applications, and you don't necessarily want to just like keep like sifting around through all of your artboards manually, which scrolling through your artboards or scrolling across like your various artboards and across your interface, I use a mouse. 10 out of 10, please use a mouse when you're using XD or literally any design tool, but you hold down the scroll button and you just drag across your screen. But with these artboards, you can kind of navigate where you want to go. So if I want to go, we're not going to go to code. If I want to go to the home screen that I designed, when I click on it, it highlights. So when I'm looking at like all of my artboards, say there's like 20 artboards going on, which I have done that before, using this artboard menu really helps to navigate all of the designs you have. Whereas like if you had a rectangle, it's not going to show up under the artboards. It's going to show up under pasteboard, and at that point, pasteboard is everything that's not on an artboard. So if you have a random miscellaneous rectangle and a bunch of other miscellaneous shapes, it's going to be literally impossible to find your rectangle. The next one is ellipse, pretty self-explanatory. It's a circle. You have a line, not a shape, but lines do come in handy. Polygon, which is a triangle. And then one tool that I'm not really going to emphasize, but if you want to learn about it more, it's really helpful for making graphics, like custom graphics. So if you double click on any shape, you can manipulate like the core parts of the shape. So I can make this into any kind of shape that I want if I like manipulate the points. So this isn't a part of the pen tool, but what is kind of cool about the pen tool is that if I hit pen, I can create whatever shapes I want, but the pen tool kind of is also encapsulated in this idea that like you're kind of manipulating. If you see like the little pen pops up, this is the pen tool, like you're manipulating the shape, and you can create new points and kind of move them around. But I'm not going to really go into depth. The pen tool is kind of a difficult tool to get used to, and it definitely took me a while. But I can show you designs that I've done with the pen tool that have really like transformed my screens and whatnot. And the last one that you're going to really need to know is text. You just hit T. There's 2 different things with text, though, that I want to emphasize is that if you just click, like one-off click, you'll create, and you type something in, right? You just kind of have this like one line of text that you can manipulate the size of with this little selector resize tool. However, if you use the text tool and you hold down and scroll over, then you'll get a text box. Ooh, I have to type stuff in it. You'll get a text box that you can manipulate the shape of. See how if I zoom in, I have like these dotted lines there on my text box, whereas this one does not. This is especially important. When you're trying to do like paragraphs for like say content that you're doing. And I'll kind of show you an example because we are going to move on to our example, because I do want people to kind of see what XD is capable of, and so that it'll help them visualize what they can do with XD. Another quick things, again, control. If you hold down control and you scroll in and out, you're zooming in and out. There is a zoom functionality, which is this little magnifying glass, or if you hit Z on your keyboard, but it's kind of super impractical. Like, what am I going to need this for? Whereas, like, instead, I can just zoom in and out, which I think I've zoomed in so much that, oh God. Oh, where am I? Okay, I'm severely confused as to why I cannot zoom out. Let's see. How am I stuck? Might be better if I just exit out and re-enter in my thing. Give me 1 second. Okay, awesome. Problem solved. Let me go and share my screen again. Cool. So I'm going to show you an example of something I quickly whipped up for this workshop. I've created essentially just a very basic and simple portfolio site that I'm kind of going to walk through. So one of the things that really sets Adobe XD apart from other web other applications like Sketch and Figma, right, is that Adobe XD has an auto animate function that essentially like helps bring your prototype to life. So right now these are just screens. I can show this to somebody as like a proof of concept kind of, but it's not going to be anything impressive if I can't kind of show you that it is an application, right? Right now they're just designs. So what's really going to set it apart is when you prototype something. And I'm going to kind of walk through my prototype, and then we're going to kind of go over like what components make up the screen. And I'm going to kind of create, I think, these two screens. So the about and also the home screen with you guys, and show you like A, how to prototype it, and then B, like all of the interesting parts about this that make it functional and also make the design sleek and make my design more efficient, like the tools that Adobe XD provides. So in order to turn, I guess, like play my prototype, which you'll see all these lines and I'll talk about them when we get around to it. But if I hit play, are you all able to see my prototype? I know it opened up another. Someone type in the chat and tell me if they can see my prototype. I know it opened up another window, so I'm kind of worried if people can see it or not. You can. Okay. I'll share my whole application screen then. So this is the prototype, and then this is the walkthrough, like preview of the prototype. I think you all can see it now. If you see like my prototype, it's very simple, but all these little functions, like when I hover over objects, they change different colors. This is a part of prototyping. Instead of it just being like a picture, again, these little tidbits with like making hovers for when you're about to click on something are really what bring your prototype to life and what make it worth kind of looking at more. So I'm going to go to my About page. you can see that I have this blurry cat picture. It's not actually a picture of me, but kind of has my little description. When I click on it though, it's a picture of me. Wow, awesome. And then if I go to my work page, I can kind of scroll through my work progress. I filled in my content with Lorem Ipsum. One key tidbit about UI design is that you in no shape or form need to fill in like anything unnecessary. So this is this is going to get my point across, right? That I have work experience. Here's my title. And then I'm not going to bother filling in a bunch of points because that's a waste of time. You just use Lorem Ipsum. And I'll show you really fast how to just, instead of going on the internet and going find Lorem Ipsum, there's a plugin or kind of like a library in when you're coding that allows you to just fill in Lorem Ipsum wherever you need it. Super convenient. And then I have like my projects, whatever. And then if I can go back, if I hit my name, I'll go back to my home screen. And then if I click content, an overlay, a little screen that says contact me. None of this I can't add content onto it, unfortunately, but I definitely can mock as if I did have content. So, you know, if I hit submit, it'll still go away. You can obviously take it a step forward and create like another overlay over that overlay that says, great, you've submitted your thing, awesome, super cool. But I think this gets the point across that, you know, this was just a group of screens, but now it's an actual prototype. Now it actually looks like a site, as if a site were working on it, but there's no backend to it. You can't add data. One thing about Adobe XD is that you can't add data. You can't make it like an actual website. It's not like a Squarespace or anything. So I'm going to go over how I went about creating my home screen. So first thing I did is I created an artboard. So I hit A for my artboard selector. The menu's not coming up though. Oh, here it is. So I'm going to go ahead and click. I think I selected 1920. Good job. Okay. So I'm going to create a new home screen. New home. So one thing with Adobe XD, right, is that literally anything is kind of customizable to you. So if you can see, I've selected my artboard, but I can change the dimensions and the in terms of, these are all in pixels. I can change the width, the height, where it is on my like interface. So this is the X and Y coordinates of it. If I really wanted it, if I had like a bunch of them, this would be a good way to keep track of them. I can change these like nitty gritty if I wanted to. I can also lock the dimensions. That way, if I'm like kind of like quickly going through my artboard, sometimes it is like annoying to like accidentally like push your artboard in, and that's quite obnoxious. But you can lock things in place. And then let's see. There's a bunch of these other like little tidbit things like. Or go over components, but you can't make an artboard a component, and you'll see why when we go over it. But you can change. What we're going to do is we're going to change the color. So instead of doing green, I'm going to go with light blue. Actually, we're going to do pink because it's my favorite color. Cool. So I've created my new home. I've made it pink for the background. Now I'm going to add my name and my menu options, as well as a new button. So my name, I won't do my name. I'm going to do Josh. Josh is another organizer. So I'm resizing Josh's name, and I'm going to fit it up in my corner. But oh wait, well, I don't really know like where exactly it's going to look good, and how do I? Is there a tool to help me like figure out, you know, where I want to measure out things on my screen? There is. It's called grids. So if you, on the left-hand side of your artboards and on the top, you can create grids. And if you see these like pink numbers that are showing up on the left, it tells you how many pixels from the end of the artboard, where like the grid line is. So I'm going to measure it out to be like, I want it to be 75 exactly, but we're going to offer 74. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. And this is going to help manage my content and make sure that everything's evened out on my artboard. That way it doesn't look wonky and, oh my God, I cannot get my grid to 74. There we go. So there's you again, like it's only on the right and the top side, or the left and the top side. So you're gonna have to you just scroll over from the left. Not much of a hassle. This is a quick tidbit. Oh, well, now I'm hitting 75. Oh my god, I'm right in the middle. Okay, default to 73. And then another one, 74. Pretend that's 74. So I'm going to take his name and I can measure it up on the top of the grid. And then I can also, with different elements, depending on what it is, you'll get different menu options. So kind of the same with the artboard, you can change where on the artboard the X and Y coordinates are at. You can mirror it up and down, like left and right. You can also change the font. So I have a bunch of fonts that you can download from Adobe, Adobe Fonts, and they're all free. However, I'm going to go ahead and pick Open Sans because I like Open Sans. It's also a very basic and easy font to work with that doesn't really cause any issues. With Open Sans as well, I'm going to go ahead and make it a little more bold. So with a lot of the fonts, you can download like different weights of your fonts. So I have a bunch of them for Open Sans. You can also change the line spacing here, line height here. This is paragraph spacing. We don't have paragraphs, it's not necessary. You can capitalize all your letters, decapitalize, lowercase them all. You can capitalize only the first letter. These are probably my favorite pieces of Adobe XD because then you're not wasting time on trying to go and editing all the little nitty-gritties of your text. So I'm going to opt to do, we're going to do all uppercase, and I'm going to actually change this back to regular because I think it looks nicer. Now I'm going to change my color. You can do with colors, you can change them by the hexadecimal value. You can do RGB, and you can also do HSB, which is like the color values of like red, green, and blue. I believe. No, that's RGB. HSB is a different thing, but I normally just use hex. So I'm going to opt to pick a color, and then I'm just going to make it a little bit darker. Cool. So now I'm going to create my values for my menu. So home, about, and then work, and then we're just going to do work. We're not going to do work experience. So I'm going to make my text. I want to make them all a bit smaller. We're going to remeasure them. So I'm at 42 for home. So I'm going to change all the rest of my text to be 42. Okay, so with Adobe XD, when you're creating elements like my menu options from text, what's really cool about it is that it'll tell you, like, it'll help you a lot with spacing and alignment. So these blue lines help you align straight and across, and then the pink spaces will help you also with like how that way they're equally spaced on your page and they don't look wonky. If you don't necessarily want to go about like trying to align them all yourself, they do have tools up on the top right-hand corner on your tool menu. You can middle align things. You can have them all centered together. I'm not going to do that. And then these will help you with spacing. So this is horizontal spacing and vertical spacing. That way, I don't have to worry about unaligned objects, because that's probably the most unattractive thing about a site is if your things aren't aligned, well, your site looks like garbo. But if you got something like XD going on, or you're just using like a CMS, a content management site, your system, you don't have to worry about that. But now we're going to create a button. So with buttons, the first thing I'm going to do, instead of using, if you see like my button, it looks like a fat oval. It's actually a rectangle. So with rectangles, you get these like 4 dots in your rectangle, and this is to change the curve of your border. You can do this all manually as well. With rectangles, almost all of the same kind of functionality going on with mirroring and changing the size. Also opacity, you can change the opacity. But instead of having like for text, there was like fonts and stuff, you can change the curves, and you can also change like if there's you can change each border individually. You can also do for like borders, you can change, like you can make it, you can have dashes and then you can space out those dashes using gap. And you can also increase the border size. So for my button specifically, I'm going to make the borders uber curved. They're going to be extra curvy. And then I'm going to increase the border size. I think 8 looks pretty nice. I'm feeling 8. If I want to keep the dimensions, like keep the overall size or the dimensions of my rectangle, and I don't want to change the size, hold down Shift and then resize. I think this is pretty common for a lot of applications, but so again, like with Figma and with Sketch, and when you try to pick this up or pick up those applications, it's going to be pretty easy because a lot of the same is with Adobe XD, so it's super seamless to transition. But I've created my button. I think I like the size. I'm going to duplicate work just because I don't want to draw. I don't want to worry about coloring and resizing my text box. And I'm going to just write in contact me. So layering is also a big thing with UI design. So right now it's behind my button. I can either right click and find, I think it's order, no, it's arrange. I can bring it to the front, or I can use my shortcuts. So your shortcut is going to be Control and then brackets are going to dictate front or backward. So for me, I'm going to bring it forward and then align it. I'm thinking a contact me needs to be a little smaller. Sweet. I'm going to change the border color of my button with the colors. You can use the eyedrop tool. I'm sure you've all learned how to use that from like paint applications as kids. I used to use it all the time for like, middle school. So now I've got my cute little button. And the next thing on my prototype or on my screen is this little graphic and some more text. So we're going to start with the graphic. So I did not make this graphic on my own, but I'm sure you've seen something similar because it's from this like website or like component package called Undraw. It's pretty popular for design. So on my left-hand side, where I have like these menus, so if you remember before, this button had, instead of when I click off, it has my artboards. When I click on an artboard, it shows me that my layers, so what components are on my artboard. And if I can kind of rearrange these in a different order if I want to bring a certain element to the front or to the back. That'll come in handy when I don't name anything. So like my component for Josh's name has changed to his name as a way of keeping track of it. But like obviously, like so with the rectangle, right? It's just called rectangle 17. So it'll help me when I want to click around and like want to pick and choose what I want. I know with a Word you can select something and hit Control and then start clicking around to kind of select multiple items. That doesn't work in an XD. Instead, you have to do that. You can do the Control and selecting on your layers menu. So I want to use Undraw. So I have a plugin for that, which again is kind of like a library when you're thinking about coding. So I have several different plugins right now. And Lorem Ipsum's right here. I'll show you how to use that. But I'm going to choose Undraw. And through Undraw, I can pick through this variety of free-to-use graphics, and I can change the colors, like what my primary color is going to be and everything, which is especially convenient. I think I'm going to opt for, I don't like any of these colors. I think they're all here because they're asset colors, so I'm going to make one of these an asset really quick. Or we'll opt to choose one of the predefined asset colors, or one of the ones that I've already made. Yeah, we're just going to choose one that I already have. And I think I'm going to change on my text color too to accommodate that. Watercolor. Fill color. Sick. So I'm going to go to my draw. I'm going to pick my pink color as my graphics color. And I'm going to go with, we're going to do this one. So now I just have to paste it onto my artboard, and I can drag it around and pick where I want to place it. With Undraw, all of your graphics are not like grouped together, so if you try to resize it, it's going to be wonky unless you hit Shift and you keep the dimensions the same. So I have a little graphic for my site, and now I'm going to add text. I'm going to hit T for my shortcut, and then I'm just going to do hello. My name is Josh. Make this bold. With my drop-down menus, you can use the up and down arrow keys and whatnot to sift through all of your options. I find that to be faster than like manually clicking everything. Add that there. I'm going to say I am sponsorship lead. Wherever you see. Sweet. I'm going to go with italic. Resize, align, beautiful, sweet. So now I have my site, but before we move on, one thing I want to do is I want to create components. So what are components, you might ask? So I've already created components for my my site up here. So I've essentially what like or not components. We're talking about assets. What I'm doing is I want to create assets. That way, I can keep reusing and like grabbing at what I need really quickly. So I've stored the core colors that I've been using in my designs. So these are a bunch of the core colors I've been using, and as well as storing different components that I am using consistently on my site. So on my site, things like the Contact Me button, the Work, Home, About buttons, those are all things, and my name, those are all things that I'm going to be using for almost all of my screens. And what's really cool about components is that if you change the primary component, which you can identify your primary component by this little green diamond, if it's filled in, it's the primary component, and if it's not filled in, that means it's either it's like a spawn off of the primary component. If I change anything about this primary component, it's going to change the rest of them. So if I changed my text to white, you can see at the bottom right next to my color selector, the one below it changes as well. This is super quick, super efficient when you're kind of playing around with designs, and you're not really sure, like, oh, I'm trying to feel out different colorways. Super fast and easy to change that. As well as with prototyping too, we'll get around to that. The same thing goes if I change the main component to like, if I change my main component or main asset to point to, no, it is a component, to point to like my about page or something like that, then all of the spawns of that button, all the contact buttons are also going to point to that page. That way I don't have to do it individually and keep track of them all by themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. My Contact Me text and my actual button are not together. So I'm going to go ahead and actually group them together. So I'm going to highlight the two of them and then hold Control G to group them together. You can also right click and group them manually. Those will tell you all the shortcuts as well if you forget them. So now this whole button in itself, if they click on the Contact Me or the button portion, it's going to be a component because I'm going to make it a component. So now it's a component. You can also add the component functionality up on you can either add it on the right menu or the left menu. So I'm going to add it on I added it on the left menu, but I'm going to use the right menu. And I'm going to change its state for when people hover over it to be different. So now it's almost like two different instances of the contact button. So for this specifically, I wanted to invert the colors. So now I want my text to be be that pink color that I was using before. No. I'm gonna make it lighter. I'll do white. Not my prettiest colorway, but that's okay. But now every time someone hovers over my button, I can change it to be the hover state. I haven't automated that yet or like added animation to it. I do that in the prototyping stage. But I'm going to go ahead and create a component out of work, create a hover state really quick, change that color to be white, revert it back to its default state. I'm going to do the same thing with about, and I'm not going to do it to home. And there's a reason why. It's because if I do it to home, then there's like no way for me to have like this component point back to the same screen it's at. So instead I'm gonna, when I go to the make my about page, I'm gonna have it pointing, I'm gonna have that one be the main component. So this one's just gonna chill for right now. But now I'm gonna create a new artboard. My dimensions were 1920, web 1920. I'm gonna go ahead and really quickly make it the same color as the primary page. I'm going to copy and paste actually a new Josh's name. Copy over all of these things. And then for his about, I'm going to create an ellipse to store a picture in. Going to make sure that this is a symmetrical circle or a perfect circle. I'm going to scroll down. Everything that you create has a border by default. I'm going to click off of that so then there's no border at all. I'm going to add text. Welcome to my site. I am Josh. So I created a bio for mine. If you remember, I added like actual text onto it. I'm not going to do that for Josh's. I'm a little lazy. So instead I'm going to fill it in with lorem ipsum. I think that's one of the biggest tricks about XD is that all these tools that you have a little toolbox that makes everything super fast. Super cool. So, like I mentioned before, I'm not going to just create a randomly willy-nilly size text box. I'm going to specify how big I want my text box, and I want it this big. And now I want to go into my, if I don't fill it in with anything, it automatically deletes the text box. So I'm going to fill it in with random letters. Lorem ipsum, fill with placeholder text. Sweet. Josh has a bio now, and it's just lorem ipsum. I'm going to choose italic, just because I think it looks nice. If I resize my text box, the lorem ipsum will fill in however big my text box is. That's also very convenient. I'm going to move this up a little bit. I don't have a picture of Josh, or at least one that I don't really have a picture of Josh on my computer, so I'm going to fill it in using another plugin. This is called User Profile. It's probably the most simple and basic one that you can have as a plugin, but it fills it in with royalty-free pictures. So now this is not what Josh looks like, but this is just a random picture of a guy. I'm going to make this as a component as well. And instead of creating a hover state, which hover state, this like default option of hover state, it already prototypes like or creates like the animation for it. But if I create a new state, the animation isn't like incorporated with it automatically. So I'm going to call it clicked. Clicked is when I want his actual picture to appear. So by default, I'm going to fill it in with a cat picture. I'm sure you can see, I think you can see all my pictures. I'm going to double check though. Yeah, you can. So you can see all my pictures. So I'm going to fill it in with a blurry cat picture like I did before. So one thing with XD is that you can drag you can't really like crop things in XD. You have to like drag them into like shapes that have already been like predefined in terms of like size. So if I just drag and drop my blurry cat picture in, my blurry cat picture sets in, and I can resize it within the shape, but I can't crop it. Like if I double click on it, normally in Word you can crop pictures. That's not a thing in XD, but you can just drag things in without having to save the photo either. You can just go on the internet and find random photos. So that's a nice tidbit. It can also be very obnoxious though. Oh, where did my weird man picture go? Is it because it's not a picture on... Okay. Clicked. Oh, I see. The picture that's being filled in, the reason it's not changing is because one of them is the picture that's being filled in is kind of like being associated as a color. So this is, it's going to remain a blurry cat photo. That's okay. I can pick a different picture if I really wanted to. Like this random picture of Chicago. There we go. So now they're both associated as photos. Boop, boop, boop. Awesome. This isn't animated yet. Again, we have to prototype it ourselves. These are two basic screens. I have about 20 minutes left, so I'm going to kind of bust through what I'm going to kind of, I guess I could just copy and paste. I'm not going to. I'm going to just really quickly go ahead and make a new screen for my contact overlay. I think the important part about overlay that you need to worry about is going to be the prototyping that goes along with it. One thing I did forget to do is create a component for home. So now home is my main component, same with Josh. I want this to also re-navigate to home, my home page. So I'm gonna delete this one. And I'm just gonna copy and then click on my new home artboard and then paste. So now they're in the same exact location on the page. It goes for his name. Bam. Really fast, really easy. So if I want this to be an overlay, one thing I want you guys to know is that overlays, it's literally going to take, it's going to like make, I can actually show that. This is my primary component. So I'm going to have the contact me button navigate to the contact me page, and then instead of a transition, which should be normal, like moving on to the next slide kind of thing, I'm going to choose overlay. So if you see like the color of my artboard, it disappeared because in an overlay, obviously you want it to sit on top of another page. I don't really want that though. One thing I'm going to do first is I'm just going to quickly create a contact me page. I'm going to pick a random ass color. Sweet. Yep. Super awesome. Text is really tiny. With my text as well, you can add shadowing. So I'm going to add some shadowing just to give my text a little dimension. A quick tidbit about like UI UX design. Shadowing and adding like that really can transform your design. Because honestly, like if you just use 2D shapes, it can look okay. But if you use graphics and as well as shadowing, you can really add dimension onto your design and make it far more interesting. I'm not going to bother filling in with names. I'm just going to line. Contact me is going to be white. And contact me overlay. I want though, so for this contact me page, this contact me overlay, my screen is a little dark, but essentially what Adobe is going to do is when you're animating it, it's going to just like sit this artboard on top of the other one. And I've made my artboard like a little dark but transparent. So I've decreased the opacity, but then it kind of looks like there's shading on top and like it's a totally new screen, which can be very helpful for like, it's kind of like, you know, when you do use an overlay for anything, that's kind of what you want it to look like. So I'm going to change my artboard to be black, and then I'm going to change the opacity. Oop. I can use this sliding bar for opacity. Make it pretty light. I'm going to use another plugin really quick and show you guys. So one of the biggest helpful tips that I can say is download the Icons for Design plugin. Essentially, if you need any plugin like a close bar or like a close button, which is what I want. Click on the artboard first before you add these things in, otherwise it'll just throw your icon anywhere. I'm going to resize it. I could make this on my own, but this is a really easy way to just grab things. You can also do like logos, like I think Apple's on here. If you're doing like a social media, if you're doing like a personal site and you want to include like your social media, I don't know why I type social. Do like the Instagram icon and stuff like that, and Twitter. All these things are in the Icons for Design package, and that way you don't have to like try to worry about making them on your own, or worry about like pulling them off the internet and it being illegal. So I've created a little close button. I have my contact me page. All of this is pretty much ready for prototyping. So I want my about and my work both have hovers, and this is what this little I guess squiggle off the side of it is. It's the hover animation that I had by default already like applied to these components. So my home button does not have that though. I'm going to go ahead and add that really quick. So now I just added that to this home button, but now on the home over here, it has a little hover as well, and I didn't have to add it by myself. Gonna have Josh's name, relocate it to the home site. It's default by saying it's an overlay. We're gonna change that to auto animate. I can choose like different things that I want, like previous artboard. So like I'm not gonna use that for his name, obviously. I want it to relocate to the home screen, but this close button, I definitely want it to go back to the previous artboard. So I'm gonna choose type previous artboard. So now my close button, whether I click on the contact button here or the contact button on my about page, it's going to take me back to wherever I was at. Contact me button, they both are animated already. So I think this is pretty much ready to go. Oh, I want to animate this. So I'm going to create, I don't want it to go anywhere. So if I drag onto another artboard, I don't want it to go to another artboard. I want it to go essentially animate itself. So I'm going to have, when it gets tapped on, I want it to auto animate. I'm going to choose my destination to be to my clicked version of my component. And then I can change the duration. I can change if it's ease out, but I'm not going to worry about that. For collect though, I also need to change it back. So if I wanted to go both ways, where I click on what was before, I need to choose the definition to be my default state, also known as blurry cat, and now fully animated. So now if I go ahead, play my prototype, wowee, look at that. It's like, it's doing everything like I programmed it to. So now my prototype changes colors when I hover over all of my main like clickable components. It doesn't do that for Josh because his name, because there's like, why isn't there actually? Oh, because it's navigating back to this page anyway. I believe that's why it's not changing colors. But I click on my contact me, I can exit out, and it navigates back, and it has that nice darkened overlay. If it wasn't here, then it wouldn't look like a new layer. It would look like it was just like slapped onto the front of the screen, and that kind of looks ugly. If I go to my I have about, navigate to the about page. Then I click on about, it'll take me to my about page. If I click on the blurry cat, it's going to change. Super awesome. I have about 10 minutes left. So I'm going to say this is the end of my workshop. But if I'm going to leave about 10 minutes left to ask any questions, if you want to see anything from me in particular, like if you want me to go over something again, let me know. Otherwise, use the code SuperCoolWorkshop2 W2 for your points. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a second and just share my Adobe XD really quick. That way I can look at the chat. Does anyone have any questions? We see some social media things you've made. Yeah, sure. I can actually show you all the things that I've made for RevUC. So I'm in a club called UAA, United Asian Advocates, and I made all these graphics from scratch. So all these little guys, they're all made by me. I also made like the little clouds and everything on my own. This is one of the things so Revit had two different designs. Oh shoot. Revit had two different designs, and this is the other one that I made. It's a unicycle frog on a surfboard riding the waves of RevUC. I thought it was really fun. But I also made this from scratch. And Revit was made with Adobe XD as well. I did the flyers with Adobe XD. Oh, this is one of the things I'm proud of. So my friend and I, it was her birthday. She's actually an organizer as well. It was her birthday. So I wanted to make like a custom case. So I'm sure you've seen like this on sororities before, where they take like a picture that you've made, and they like create like a little outline of them. So I did the same thing, but I did it with Adobe XD because I can't draw. But the graphic, I essentially used the pen tool, and I just took shapes and I started manipulating them to look exactly like the picture. And I think it came out pretty well. This is the original picture. And now they're phone cases. My phone case is the graphic, and she is the matching one. So something I'm also very proud of. I also made an application for AHAC Ohio, and I made custom graphics for that. It was bee-based, like the bees is the theme. So I made little bees. My bee had a bow tie. Didn't know we could get so much heat for the frog. Haha, what? But yeah. Does anyone have any other questions if they want to see the designs or to see how to do something again? Otherwise, I'm going to throw up some other stuff. Or throw back the code. Does it export in HTML and CSS? Yeah, it does, but it's really bad. Don't ever export like I personally don't think it's worth exporting. I've tried. I can actually do it with like one of the designs here, and you can see like it's all XD is not smart enough for that. So you can choose web, and I can export it to. I'm gonna export it to my RevUC folder, and let me go ahead and show you guys what it looks like. It's not at all like responsive. That's why I think it's a waste. This is a PNG. Where's the actual web? Oh, here it is. Wait. Export. Oh, wait. It's a plugin. My apologies. It's called Web Export. And I can export. I'm going to export this artboard. I'm going to export it into my RevUC folder. Yeah, it's like not good quality. I like personally don't recommend it. Let me pull it up. I just exported it. Where did it go? Oh, I see. I'm on the wrong screen. Can you see this, Dave? This looks like poop. It's not responsive. It's too big. That's why I opt to not try to use that. DMs leaked. Yeah, me and Nina's secret DMs. How do you choose color asset colors? Okay. This whole sharing screen thing is very difficult. I'll do it with the flyers example. So I can choose asset colors by either clicking on the artboard that I want to use and just like hitting the plus button. So it's exported every color that I've used on this artboard. I can choose to not do that though, not click on an artboard, and instead like manually input colors. So I can go ahead and like edit the color and, oh, this isn't what I wanted. Excuse me. Delete. This isn't what I wanted. I guess you do have to click on an artboard to add color assets. My apologies. Oh, that's kind of convenient. That's pretty convenient though, because it's not like you're gonna need to like you're gonna need the colors assets of your artboard anyway. So like create your artboard, then you add the assets, and you add components, and you can also add character styles. Pepe hands, Pepe hands. But yeah, does anyone have any other questions? What kind of design systems can you use and how? You mean design systems? My understanding of design systems for kind of design systems. Dave, I'm a little slow, so I'm going to have to emphasize what you mean by design systems. I know what you're talking about. I'm supposed to be working on a design system in the summer at 8041. I mean, like iOS design guidelines. Do you mean like for choosing like appropriate colors for what you want, or like appropriate like colors for what's safe for like the internet? Because I know you can't pick like too obnoxious colors, otherwise it like violates color blindness, color contrast stuff. Oh yeah. Wait, yeah. Okay, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Um, my understanding of like how I mean, to the best of my abilities, my understanding of like how to implement different design systems is you would just have to implement them as like assets and whatnot. For design systems specifically, like for like sizing and for like location and stuff, there's probably a plugin for it. I've never like I guess implemented a design system with XD before. I know you can do it in Figma, so you can probably do it with XD. I can look into that for you though. Sorry, Dave. I know that wasn't a very full answer. Someone asked me before, did I build out my designs? I did. Everything I make is pretty original. Well, not by that common sense, but yeah. Thanks, Kunal. Kunal just dropped the code in again. It's also on my screen if you want to look at it, but that's all. Thank you guys. You all are free to go. Thanks, Dave.